All right, what time is it? It is almost, let me do a quick audio check. Audio check. I can hear it, okay. Sounds good. Let me just do a quick writing on the board. I want to check something out. Maybe we can make this a little bit darker. Let's see here. Let's see if we can see our writing on the board. I made it a little bit darker. Nobody wants to see me. Can we see that? Let's see. Yeah, we can see that. Okay, we'll make it a little bit darker. Hello, everybody. Give me a second. We'll get ready to go right at 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining this quick little impromptu subject to deal. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to, anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll answer anything that you have, okay? So if anybody has any questions, feel free, put it in the chat and we'll get going in just a quick minute. Let me just get this out of the way. Let's see, let me do this as well. I'm gonna bring a fan over. It's a little hot in here tonight. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's do this. Enjoy the music, everybody, for a minute. I'll be right with you. I'm gonna turn on the air conditioner so it's not smoking hot in here. Hello. All right, we're gonna get ready to go in just 1 minute. So just bear with me while I make this room a little bit more comfortable. Right now it's a little hot, so can't see anything here. Okay, looks like we're good. Get this going, and let's get this live stream going. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming to my quick little impromptu subject to live stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shit. I'm going to be stepping over this. I better do something here. Let me move this for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and teach you guys and gals everything there is to know about subject to in a condensed little format, okay? So let me grab my marker and we'll kind of get rolling. So we'll start out with blue and hopefully that works. Let me get a piece of paper so we can get our ink flowing and then we'll get rolling. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully everybody's okay. Thanks for coming. Again, sorry for the short notice, but I got bored, so I said, well, why the hell not? Why not? Let's just do a quick subject to video live stream. I know that a couple of my students are interested in this method because they see it all the time on YouTube. We talk about it all the time, you know. So let's just go over it. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them down there. I'll answer anything that you have. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Vinny Craven. I've owned a mortgage company for 3 decades. I've owned millions of dollars worth of real estate, hundreds of properties. I've built multi-million-dollar estates. I've owned a credit repair company. My whole life for almost the last 35, 40 years has been in this game. Okay, so again, as a lender, you know, for over 30 years, I know all this stuff inside and out. So I'm going to give you all the stuff on how this stuff works. And, you know, again, got any questions, feel free, give me a shout. So first thing I want to do is explain what subject to is, and then I want to show you, I want to compare it to an assumable loan because it's important that you know the difference between the two. And then we'll get into how this stuff works, how to structure a deal, where to find these deals, okay? So the first thing is, what exactly is subject to financing? Well, subject to is nothing more than you taking over. When I say you, me, I'm talking about us as an investor, okay? So if you hear me say the words me or you, it means we're the buyers, we're the investors, okay? So we're just taking over somebody's payments. That's all we're doing, taking over payments, okay? Taking over payments, okay? That's number one. Number two, there are no banks involved. Okay? Number 3, because there's no banks involved, there's no qualifying. Okay? Lastly, there's no risk to you. No risk. Why? Because there's nothing in your name. All right, so let me just come over to this side of the table, and let me just show you this. If you were to go to get a loan, to go borrow money, okay? All right, this is us, right? And we wanted to go buy this house. We wanted to buy it. Okay, let's just say it's $100,000 for the house, okay? And we have a job, we've got good credit, so this is what's going to happen. We're going to go to a realtor, or we're going to go to a mortgage broker, right? Or we're going to go to a banker, whomever, okay? Credit union. What's going to happen is they're going to what we call pre-approve us, okay? Well, the realtor's going to send us here, all right? That's what they're going to do. So we're going to get pre-approved. And what that means is we're going to take an application, okay? And that application is all our personal information, 4 to 5 pages long, right? It's longer now, right? They changed it up, so it's even longer now. When I was in the business, it was 3 pages with an optional couple more pages if you had a lot of assets or a lot of real estate, okay? Now, I don't know how many pages it is now, but I saw it the other day. My wife owns a mortgage company now. All right, so you got to do an application, all your personal information, okay? You're going to have to, they're going to verify your credit, right, twice. They're going to pull your bank statements, 3 months of them, okay? They're going to get 2 years of your W-2s or your returns, okay? And they're going to get 1 month of pay stubs. Now, believe it or not, there were people that tried to commit fraud, not really have a job, have Uncle Johnny down at the barbershop say he works here, make W-2s and fake bank statements and fake pay stubs. But now, what do we do now? Okay, now, the banks got smart. They're going to make you sign a 4506 or an 8821. And this is an IRS form that pulls your transcript. Okay? So what the banks are going to do is they're going to go and they're going to pull your actual tax returns. And they're going to see what's legit and what's not legit. Okay? So look what you have to do to go get this. Now, it doesn't matter if it's $100,000, $50,000, $1 million, $2 million, you're going to go through the same process to borrow money, okay? So basically what you have done is you go to the bank, right? You do all this stuff, and the bank is now going to give you a loan. They're going to give you a loan, okay? And this is the way that it works. You're going to go to the closing table, right? Let's just say you put 5% down. So now the bank is going to give you 95% or $95,000. And they're going to make you sign certain papers. They're going to make you sign a note, and they're going to make you sign a mortgage. Okay? Now, you're going to sign other disclosures, but they're just like cover your backside disclosures for the bank and the title company. That's all they are. The most important documents, the note. Now, the note, this is the IOU. Spells out all the financial terms of the loan. Okay? Who the lender is, who you are, what the interest rate is, what today's date is, when your first payment is due, what was the interest rate, is there a prepayment penalty, right? I owe you $95,000, Mr. Banker. Okay, that's what the note is. Now, the mortgage, this is the bank's security. Okay? This is their security. Okay? And what they're going to do is they're going to put a lien against the house. So when you buy this house, and let's just say this was the original seller, okay, this is the seller, here's what happens. The seller is going to transfer the deed. Okay? Transfer the deed over to you. Now, you physically have the deed in your hand. You own it because we live in the judicial state of Pennsylvania. And if you don't know what that means, go look up my short sale video. I explain judicial versus non-judicial. Okay? So basically now, the bank who just lent you this $95,000, they made you sign a note, which is the IOU, a promissory note. I promise to pay you back $95,000 at 7% for 30 years. Now, because you have the deed, the bank puts a mortgage on it. So they record this into the courthouse, and this is the security. And it tells you to do a few things. It tells you to maintain your payments, maintain your taxes, maintain your insurance, maintain your property, it even says in there. And then it goes into default. What will happen in case you go into default, okay? If you miss 90 days, 3 months of payments, that will trigger your default clause, okay? Where they're going to go to the court, judicial, right? They're going to go to the court and file a judgment against you, okay? That's for the judgment is going to be for the money that you owe, plus the past due, plus the interest, plus attorney fees and everything else, okay? Also, when you go to the closing, you sign a HUD-1, now called a closing disclosure, okay? So, forgot to put that in there, sorry about that. So these are the most important things that you sign, okay? The bank gives you the money, there you go, boom, boom, boom. You go to closing, you have a promissory note. The bank has a lien against the property in case you default, right? So they're in the first lien. The seller transfers the deed over to you, okay? Through, if you get to, obviously, if you get a loan, you got to get title insurance, all right? And we'll talk about all this stuff later. So now you've got the deed, you own it, and the bank has a lien against it. That is how you initially go get money, or how any seller gets money, okay? And before we get over here to how we take these payments over, let me talk about one thing, okay? Let me erase this. If there's any questions on that, let me know, and I will, if there's any questions on that, what I'll do is I'll answer them. So just put it down in the bottom. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about assumable loans, right? And it's going to all lead up to the subject too, all right? So let me just erase the board here, okay? So we're going to talk to you about assumable loans, which are different than subject to. So you go to the bank, you get your loan, you get your money, you borrow it, now you own a house, okay? Now you want to get out of the house, you're having a hard time selling it, and somebody approaches you and says, hey, I'd like to buy your house, and I see that you got good terms. And let's go over this real quick, which will lead us into this, okay? So the same kind of scenario. Here you are, right? This is the seller. This is the seller. And the seller went to the bank, right, and borrowed, let's see, so the fair market value is $100,000. That's what it's worth, fair market value, okay? He owes $80,000, okay? He's been paying this loan for a while. Remember, he borrowed $95,000. He put $5,000 down. He borrowed $95,000, but he's been paying it for a while. And by the way, let's just say his PITI total payment is $1,000 a month, okay? And let's say he's been paying it for 10 years, so he's got 20 years left. 20 years left, and he's at 3%, all right? Now, obviously, that payment would be a little bit high at 3%, but these are easy numbers that I can just show you an example. So don't get too caught up on the technicalities of, hey, that payment doesn't seem right, $1,000. I know it's not right, but it's easy to count for me, okay? If not, I need my fingers and my toes, all right? I can't count unless I got a calculator right next to me, and believe me, I got them all over the place, and I got 2 of them right here, all right? So here's the scenario. The seller has a house worth $100,000. He owes $80,000. He's got a PIT of $1,000. 20 years left at 3%. Now, you come along, you want to buy this house. And I don't mean this as an investor. A regular buyer wants to buy this. Because right now we're talking about assumable. Because I want to show you the difference between what an assumable and what this is. And how these loans work so that you can understand them. Sorry about that. Okay. So now, a buyer comes along and would like to buy this house. But currently, and I'm not talking about today, but let's just say current rates, 8% for 30-year loan. Okay, so it's high, right? It's higher than what he had. He's like, man, I wish I got a marker now. I wish I could get that kind of rate. So here's what he does. He has money, got good credit, and he could buy this house. So what does he do? He says, hey, Mr. Seller, I would like to buy this house. I would like to assume this loan right here. And the seller says, well, why do you want to do that? Well, Mr. Seller, listen, I can give you the $20,000 down, but if I went to the bank, I'm going to be paying 8% for 30 years. You told me you have an assumable loan, and always ask up front if they have an assumable loan. There's not many of them left around, but always ask, hey, if you have an assumable loan, I can get the $80,000, only have 20 years left, and at 3%. And what happens? Well, you'll be completely out of it. You get all your equity. Remember this. In any deal, okay? Any deal. There's only one thing a seller has in the deal. And what is that? It's equity. That's it. That's all they have in the deal. Equity is the money. The difference between what they owe and what it's worth. That's all they have in the deal. That's it. Nothing more. They've got equity. Now, here's the key to doing creative financing deals. This is the key, okay? The sellers have wants and they have needs. Which one do you got to solve for the seller? The want or the need? You got to solve this. Why? Listen, I want a Lamborghini in my driveway right now. I can't. I need a car. Okay? How am I getting the car? With the equity. All right? So remember that. They have wants, they have needs. Satisfy the needs. Now, if you could give them both, you hit a home run. Okay? But remember, they only have the equity. Over in this scenario, you're giving him his equity, his $20,000. So, how does this work? Okay, now Mr. Buyer goes to the seller's bank. And what's he do? He applies for an assumption. Okay? So the bank goes through the process and approves them for assuming the loan. So now what happens? Okay. So now the buyer will sign the papers. Okay? From the bank. Most of the time it used to be a point, right? You used to have to go, you had to qualify with less, it was less stringent, and it cost you 1 point and then plus your closing costs, okay? So now the bank approves the assumption. They say, yeah, you can assume his loan. Great. You go to closing. The $20,000 you give to Mr. Seller. Now you assume this $80,000 and $1,000 a month. You sign the papers. Thank the bank prepared. Okay? Now the seller, he's completely free of all obligations. Okay? Why? Because the bank had the buyer sign the papers. So this loan, this right here, went into the seller's name. By the way, the act of signing those papers into the buyer's name is called a novation. Okay? This is truly what a novation is. Okay, I can't even tell you the last time we even used that word novation. Last time was probably in court sometime. But I can tell you it's never used in the mortgage business. But that is what a novation is, the act of changing it from the seller into the buyer's name. Now, the seller is free and clear, gone. It's just like the loan was paid off, okay? It was literally like it was paid off. He has no more obligations. He's gone. See you later. Bye-bye. Right? Now, the buyer put $20,000 down and assumed that loan, okay? Now, let's take this a little bit farther, and we'll just touch on it, and this is for later on. What would happen if he didn't have $20,000, right? But he wanted to assume that loan. Well, you know, you can have the seller take back a second, right? He can hold it back, give him good terms, right? Maybe he's got bad credit and he has to sell. Okay, maybe he needed a car. Maybe you put the car in your name, right? Different, listen, that gets into creative finance. We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so there you go. There's a typical and assumable loan. Now, let's talk about subject 2. All right, let's talk about subject 2. Let me erase the board, and let's do this. This is the same scenario, okay? We're going to do the same scenario, right? Same identical scenario right here, all right? But this time, instead of an assumable loan, we're going to do it as a subject to, okay? So now you know what an assumable loan is, right? The seller is completely out of the deal, okay? And remember, when you start getting into creative financing, the seller only has equity in the deal. That's all they have is their equity. And there's two things you got to find out when you're talking to the seller. That's their want and their needs, okay? You satisfy the needs. Everybody wants the stars and the moon, right? Just like what I just said, hey, I want a Lamborghini in my front driveway right now. Okay, well, I don't have one, okay? But I want it. Well, we all want something, but what do you need? Well, I need a Pinto to get back and forth to work. Okay, well, let me solve your Pinto problems, okay? I can solve your problems, right? Satisfy the needs, not the wants, okay? You'll get a lot farther when you start negotiating with people if you satisfy the needs and not the wants, right? Because everybody wants something. Trust me, they all want something. Okay, let's jump back over to here. Now, sorry, we talked about assumable loans, right? Where you go to the bank. Same scenario now. Same scenario. Here's the seller. Here's the house. He's got a fair market value of $100,000. He owes 80. He's got a PITI, $1,000. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for those that don't know. Right? It's your monthly mortgage payment that you're going to pay every month, okay? So you got a PITI of $1,000. He's got 20 years left, right? And he's at 3%. Okay? That's the scenario. So now let's go and talk about subject to and how that would work. Now, maybe the situation is different. Maybe you don't have money. Maybe you don't have good credit, whatever the situation is. So now you want to do this as a subject to and not an assumable. He doesn't have an assumable loan, but he's got good rates, okay? But the loan is not assumable. Okay, well, here's how you would do this deal. All you're doing is taking over the payments. Now, there's no bank, which means you're not calling the bank, which means you're not qualifying, which means there's no risk. So how does this work? Okay, here you are, okay? Here's you, the investor, okay? So now, this right here, you're just going to take this over. Well, how do you take it over? Okay, you're going to sign paperwork. The first thing you're going to do, well, we're going to get it, but you're going to sign an agreement of sale, right? And you're going to go to closing just like a regular closing, but it's just a little bit different, okay? But basically, it's the same concept, just different, all right? So you're going to take over the payments. You're going to need to get certain paperwork done as well. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're talking about paperwork in a little bit, okay? So you're going to fill out the proper paperwork. You're going to go to closing, and then the deed is going to transfer over to you, the deed, okay? Now, there's no banks involved. So if there's no banks involved, what happens? Okay, the deed goes from the seller to you, and it can be done one of two ways. The first way is what we call quick claim deed. And don't worry if you don't understand this right now. It's okay, you don't have to, right? As long as you understand this, you can work with this. As long as you understand that you're taking over payments and that there's no banks involved, that's all you need to know for now. Okay, this stuff you can learn. All right, we teach all this stuff at the Golden Triangle Academy. So you can do a quick claim deed, which is not the proper way to go, and it's really what it is. It's just somebody signing the deed over. You got no warranty, you got nothing. And that's why you need to do certain things, right? Or you do it a better way and you get a warranty deed. Now, warranty deeds is what we do every day in the mortgage business, okay? You go to closing, you get title insurance, and the title company warrants the deed, which means if something pops up, it's covered. They take care of it, okay? Because you paid for title insurance, all right? So now, the deed gets transferred from the seller to you. Step number one. Yes, I know there's paperwork. We'll get to the paperwork, okay? This loan, however, right here, this loan is going to stay in the seller's name. It's not going anywhere. It's staying in his name. Okay? People say, well, can you do that? Yes, you can do that. It's been around forever. The question is, will they do it? Why would they do it? Big different story right there, okay? So the loan will stay in the seller's name. Now, there's some things you got to know about this, right? We're going to talk about these two things, but here's some of the issues that you're going to have. Number one, you're going to have this issue called a due on sales clause. Okay, that's number one. And number two, the other one, with the loan staying in his name, he's at risk. And number three, the other issue is that if the seller, they need to qualify with the loan still in the name. Loan in their name. Okay? So there's some issues. Okay? So again, there's no banks involved. So I'm going to erase these as we go. So there's no banks involved. Okay? You're just taking over the seller's payment. That's all you're doing. Taking over the payments. It's done by transferring the deed. You can transfer the deed the quick, easy way, which is called a quick claim deed. Now, let me explain a quick claim deed for those that don't know. Okay? We use them all the time in the mortgage business this way. Okay? This is the normal quick claim deed kind of route. Say a husband and wife are getting divorced, and the wife is going to keep the house. Okay? The husband signs it over, and I'm using this analogy because it's going to come up in a little bit. Okay? So just remember what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Quick claim deed is usually done with divorced couples where husband and wife get divorced. Whoever's keeping the house, the other spouse, is signing it over. So let's say the husband's leaving. The husband's giving the house to the wife. The husband will sign a quick claim deed over to the wife. Now, the husband is still responsible for all of this, right? He signed the papers up front at the bank. Remember, we signed papers at the bank, which makes us liable for this loan. So a quick claim deed is he just signs it over. He owns no more of that house. Nothing. Zero. He's not entitled to anything. Okay? But he's still liable for paying that loan. It's in his name. Okay? If the wife misses a payment, guess what? The 30-day late is going to go on his credit report as well. So the same thing that happens with this. The loan is going to stay in the seller's name. They are at risk. Up to you. It's up to you to keep their credit clean. Now, most gurus will tell you to go get a person and do a lease purchase option and get a deposit, non-refundable deposit. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. And I'll get to that later. Okay, that's another story that I'm going to tell you about, doing a lease purchase option, getting a security deposit, non-refundable security deposit up front. People who are that are only people who have usually crappy credit or self-employed, which means you're not getting paid. Okay, let's keep going. So now the seller has to keep this loan in their name. They sign a quick claim deed over to you, okay? Or if you do it a little bit better, you get a warranty deed. We're going to get into it in a minute, all right? Now, here's the issue. If the banks find out that you did this, and that's a big word. That's a big word for 2 letters. If they find out that you did this, the lender, and this is in every mortgage document, okay, through Fannie and Freddie, FHA, VA, it's all there, okay, and we can pull it up as well. Here's what it says. The lender has the right to call the note due, okay? Now, what does that mean? Okay, remember the note? We talked about the note before. The note was the IOU, right? Remember we talked about that? The note was the IOU. Okay, if they call the note due, okay, they call the note due. What does that mean? Okay, this is what it means. It means the bank is going to call up. They find out you did this. They have the right to call, let me rephrase it. They have the right to call you up. And they're going to say, Mr. Seller, you sold your house subject to financing. We have no clue who that buyer is. He didn't take an application. We didn't pull his credit. We didn't get his bank statements. We didn't get his W-2s. We didn't see anything from this guy. Now that you did that, we're calling your note due. The note is the loan. How much is left? And if you don't pay us off in 30 days, we're going to foreclose on you, okay? So that's what the due on sale clause is. It's telling people if you do this, the lender has the right to call the note due. Now, most gurus are going to tell you, hey, they never call the note due. And a friend of mine, me and him argue about this all the time. They'll never call the note due. They just want to get paid their money. Now, I agree with that statement. They just want to get paid their money. But let me tell you something. What did they have to do up front to get this initial loan? Right? Let's go back to what you did to get the loan, the seller. What did he do? I explained it earlier, right? And that's why I explained it. Well, he did a 4-page application. He had his credit. I'm saying he, but I mean it could be he, she, they, him, whatever. Okay? So don't take offense to me just saying he. It's just a habit. Okay? So he did a full-blown application. Okay? He got his credit pulled not once but twice. Once at the time of application and once the day of closing. They phone verified his employment not once but twice. Once during the process and once the day before closing or the day of closing. Right? Bank statements, W-2s, pay stubs, 45%. They made that guy jump through hoops to protect themselves. So now the gurus, including my friend, says, oh no, they don't call the note due because they just want to get paid their money. If that was the case, everybody would be doing due on sale, or what everybody would be doing subject to financing, right? So I don't believe that for 1 second. And by the way, I am calling the top 10 mortgage servicers in the country and asking them that question. I already have a couple in the can. So when I get all 10 of them, I'm going to post that video. So watch and see what happens when we call the banks and actually ask them if they will call the note due. Okay? So now the gurus, what they do is they twist like pretzels. And we're going to talk about it, how to get around it later on. So they twist like pretzels to tell you how to get around the due on sale clause because everybody's afraid of it, that they'll call the note due. And trust me, if you were the bank, you would call the note due too. Always put yourself in the other person's shoes. Put yourself in the bank's shoes. Put yourself in the seller's shoes. Would you do this? Would you give the deed to somebody that you don't know in the hopes that they're going to pay your loan for you? Maybe if you're desperate enough. I'm going to tell you this though. We have better methods that we teach at the Golden Triangle Academy than this, just to let you know. We have much better methods than this, okay? Telling you that right now, okay? All right, so now, why I put at risk. So we talked about the due on sale clause. Well, the lender can call the note due. At risk. Okay, the seller is all at risk, not you, the seller. Why? Because if they call the note due or you miss payments, it all goes on to the seller. Doesn't affect your credit. You didn't sign any paperwork. You didn't sign anything, right? You just had them sign the deed over. Now, you signed an agreement of sale, right? You signed some cover your backside papers and all this other stuff, right? So, so he, she, or they're all at risk, okay? So, again, put yourself in the seller's shoes. Would a seller do this? Well, if they're desperate enough, they will. But, in my opinion, not many of them do. They need to be ultra motivated. No normal seller is going to do this. I can tell you that right now. The majority of them put a for sale sign in the lawn and sell their house normally. The other ones, they're never going to do this. Trust me when I tell you that, right? So you got to find the motivated ones. And I'll tell you where they're at. Don't worry. Okay, now the seller needs to qualify with the loan in their name. Now here's the one thing that they all talk about. They say, oh, no. The gurus will tell you, no, they don't. No, they don't. As long as you can prove that somebody else is paying the loan, that's not true. Okay, what I'm going to do right now for you is this, okay? So let me explain it again, and then let me show you what I'm talking about. Again, remember, I was a lender, okay? I was a lender, which meant I was helping people get money. I had to know all these rules and regulations, okay? I had to know all this stuff. So let me explain to you, what it means and then how it works, okay? So let me I'm going to pull it up in a second for you, so just bear with me. So if the seller, okay, if the seller does a subject to, okay, and now you have the subject to deal. Let me do this real quick. Just bear with me. I apologize. I just got to do this. So bear with me. It's not letting me do it. Okay. All right. So just bear with me. Sorry about that. Okay. So what I'm saying is, if the seller does do a subject to deal with you, okay, Number one, he's got to worry about the due on sale clause that I talked about, right? He's at risk. And then the other thing is, let's just say everything works fine. Okay, everything's going great. Everything's fine, dandy. Okay, now, it's 2 years down the pike, right? It's 2 years down the pike. And the seller now wants to go get a new house, okay? Seller wants to get a new house. He calls you up and says, hey, Vinny, I want to buy a new house. And you tell him, yeah, you can go get a new house, right? I'll just show them that I'm making the payments, right? Well, it doesn't work that way, and I'm going to show you why, okay? I'm just pulling it up for you. I apologize. And what I mean by this is they have to qualify with all their debt that's in their name, right? That's called a debt-to-income ratio, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute, all right? I'm going to show you the actual terminology first, and I'm going to show you what it means at the end. And this is when you go get a loan, right? You have to qualify with the debt that's in your name, okay? Car loans, student loans, credit cards, things of that nature. Now, let's say a seller did do this. They did do a subject to deal, and they want to go buy a new house, okay? And they call you up and you say, hey, Vinny, yeah, it's no problem. You could do that, right? I'll get the payments to prove it, right? Because the gurus, they all say the same thing. Oh yeah, only as long as somebody else proves that they're making the payments, as long as somebody else shows that they're making the payments, right? You don't have to qualify with that in your name. And I disagree with that, and I'm going to show you why. So if you bear with me. So let me show you this. This is from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, okay? This one here is actually Fannie Mae's guidelines, okay? Now, who's Fannie Mae? Well, Fannie Mae is the biggest purchaser of mortgages, okay? They're not lenders, but they make all the rules and regulations for lending, okay, that the banks follow. Why? Because they're buying the loans at the end. They're the people buying the loans. Okay, so let's disprove what the gurus like to talk about, all right? So let's go here. This is, by the way, this is directly from Fannie Mae's website, okay? Fannie Mae, you look it up the top right here, right here, FannieMae.com, all right? So that's where I'm at, FannieMae.com. And when can debts by others be excluded from the debt-to-income ratio? Again, this is, can I qualify? And I'm going to show you what a debt-to-income ratio is in just a minute. I just want to show you these rules. Okay, let's take a look at number one. When a borrower is obligated on a non-mortgage debt, non-mortgage, so I'm right here. What is a non-mortgage debt? Okay, student loan, car loan, right? Credit card, boat loan, right? Just any type of signature loan, okay? So this is done where maybe you co-sign for a car for your daughter, your son, okay? Or you co-sign for your mother-in-law a boat. So let's see what it says. When a borrower, and this is where the gurus get it wrong, okay? Because they go by this. When a borrower is obligated on a non-mortgage debt, but it's not the party who is actually repaying the debt. So they're not the party who's actually repaying the debt. You are, right? Okay? The lender may exclude the monthly payment from the borrower's recurring monthly obligation. This policy applies whether or not the other party is obligated on the debt. I mean, the other party, it means the investor. So let me just put it up here, what they're talking about. So here's the buyer, and the other party, right, is you, and you've got this loan subject to financing. But this one, we're talking about mortgage, non-mortgage debt. We're talking about a car, a boat, something like that, okay? So now, this policy applies whether or not the other party is obligated on the debt, but it's not applicable if other party is an interested party to the subject's transaction, such as the seller or a real estate agent. Non-mortgage debts include installment loans. That's just a month. An installment loan is like a phone. Like if you go and you get your furniture from Levitt's, right, and you make monthly payments, that's called an installment loan. An installment is fixed payments over a fixed period of time. Okay, you're going to make 5-year payments. It's a car loan is an installment loan as well. Okay, student loans, revolving, lease, alimony, child support, separate maintenance. So now, when a borrower is obligated, all right. So now. So when this is non-mortgage debt, okay, the lender may exclude the monthly payment, okay? So that's a car, stuff like that. Now let's go down to the real deal right here. Okay, right here. When a borrower is obligated on a mortgage debt, okay? Who's that? Now, this is who we're talking about, the buyer right now, okay? This is who we're talking about. When a borrower is obligated on the mortgage debt, but is not the party who's actually repaying the debt. You are repaying the debt. I don't think you can see that on my board. So let me write it up here. So you have the buyer. This is the old seller, okay? This is the old seller. So I wrote it outside the thing here. And then you have you, the one who took it subject to financing, okay? You're the other person, okay? You're the other person. Sorry about that. I wrote that outside where you can't even see it. Sorry. Okay, so now, can you guys see that? I don't know if you can still see that. You know what? You can't see that either. Let me fix this for a second. Let me take care of it. Well, I'll just say, I'm sorry. I didn't know this box was so small. Okay, so let's go. When a borrower is obligated on a mortgage debt, but it's not the party who is actually repaying the debt. Okay, I'll just do it here. So here's the buyer, okay? He's the old seller. And over here is the investor. You, who did subject to financing, okay? So let's go with that, all right? So let's go with that, all right? Let's make our line a little bit thinner, okay? So now, so the borrower right here is obligated on the mortgage debt, but is not the party who's actually repaying the debt. Over here, that's the person paying the debt. The lender may exclude the full monthly PITA from the borrower's recurring obligations if, here's that big word again, if. Let's read this if right here. Let's look at this. Here's that big word again right here, if. So now, this is what has to happen if you want to exclude it from your monthly accounts to qualify. Let's start at the bottom. The borrower is not actually using rental income from the applicable party to qualify. So over here, this guy is not using the rental income. Well, check. He's not using the rental income. This guy over here is using the rental income, right? This guy is, okay? So let's erase that. So that's okay. Check. We're in good shape. All right, what's next? Okay, next. There are no delinquencies in the last 12 months. So you over here kept it clean. So there is no delinquencies. Check. Now we only got one more thing to do. So let's read the last thing if we have to. Okay, now, this is a big one. This is huge. Let's look at this. Whoops. Right here. The party, that's you, the party, this word, this party is you. Making the payments is, another big word, is obligated on the mortgage debt. So let me read it again so you understand this. The party making the payments, the party is you, the investor, is obligated on the mortgage debt. You're not obligated on the mortgage debt. You never were. Again, this is a husband and wife situation. The husband and the wife get a loan. Together, they sign the mortgage. The husband signs it over to the deed. The husband got a new trophy wife, wants to go buy a new house. The wife is making a payment. She's not late. Oh, and she is on the mortgage debt. Okay, Mr. Guy, Mr. Divorcee doesn't have to qualify with this being on his name because he is on the debt and she is on the debt. You, as the investor, are not on the debt, so they have to qualify. So don't listen to the gurus when they tell you this stuff. There it is in black and white right on Fannie Mae's website. And by the way, that is on the Freddie Mac website as well. It's on all the websites. So there you have it, right there. Now, let me explain what debt-to-income ratio means. Let me explain that now to you, okay? So, let me do this. Let me get to the big board, okay? Let me get to the big board. Let's switch this over here and get to the big board. Oh. Okay, let's get back to the big board. Okay, now, what is debt to income? Let's talk about that. Okay? Let's move the chair. Let's get Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Did it switch over? Not yet? Okay, let me get it over here. Come on. Switch over. I'm trying to get the big board up. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Now, what is debt to income? What is that? Let me show you what debt to income is, okay? I'm going to get ready to pull some stuff up. So let me explain what debt to income ratio is and what they're talking about there, okay? Debt to income, remember when we talked about going to the banks, okay, and getting a loan, okay? When you go to the bank to get a loan, right, you have to qualify. Now, how do you qualify to get a loan, right? The loan that we're going to take subject to. Here's what it takes. Number one, credit, okay? 580 for FHA and 620 minimum for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, okay? And all the other ones, okay? So there's your minimum credit scores you need, okay? Number two, need to have a job. 2-year history. Now, there's exceptions to this rule, obviously. If you've gone to school, if you're a plumber, you went to school for a year, but you've only been on the job a year, that's fine, that qualifies, okay? If you're a professional, that qualifies. So there's leeway on that 2-year job history, okay? So it doesn't have to be 2 years, but it needs to be in the same line of work. So let me put that there, same line of work. Look, you could work for 10 different companies as long as it's in the same field, okay? You're fine, okay? Let's talk about number three. Number three is money down. Okay? Now, you could go as little as no money down, right? 3%, okay? 3.5%, 5%, okay? So money down, purchase, down payment, okay? Down payment, okay? Down payment. And lastly is a DTI. What's a DTI? Let's come over here, all right? Let's talk about DTI. What is DTI? DTI is debt to income ratio. Now, how do you figure that out? Okay, it's very simple. Do your PITI, which is your monthly mortgage payment, your principal, interest, tax, and insurance, okay? Then you add all your monthly debt. This is your minimum monthly payments. Okay? You're going to divide that by your gross monthly income. And that needs to be 40% or less. Now, there's exceptions to that rule as well. I've seen them high as 55, 60 get approved. So that's, again, the general rule of thumb here. So a debt to income ratio is you take your mortgage payment, your monthly mortgage payment, and you're going to add your monthly debt to it, and then you're going to divide it by your gross monthly income, and that number needs to be 40% or less. Now, when we talked about taking subject to the loan and the seller who gave you his deal, okay? So let's go over here again and do it. So here's the original seller, right? And what was his scenario? He had a house. Fair market value was $100,000, owed $80,000, PITI was $1,000, okay, with 20 years left. Now, when he wants to go buy a new house, even though he hasn't lived in this for 2 years, you have been, what's going to happen is the new house that he wants to buy, right, over here, right, it's $300,000. He's going to have a PITI payment on that. Then he's going to have a car loan, right? He's going to have a student loan. He's going to have credit cards. Then he also has to add this on top of it. Why? Because you are not obligated on the mortgage debt. If it was his wife or ex-wife, his ex-wife, then he could exclude it. But it's not. He sold it subject to the financing. It's going to have to qualify. And then if that happens and it's the same bank that did his original loan, boy, you're going to have bells ringing to the, worried about the due on sale clause, okay? So don't always listen to the gurus when they tell you, oh, no. I was a lender. Trust me. they're going to make you qualify with that debt in your name. Okay? So that's what a debt to income ratio is. So now you know. Okay? So let me erase this, and then I'm going to show you how some of these deals work. Okay? And who would do some of these deals worrying about a due on sale clause and worried about the loan being staying in their name and all that other stuff. Okay? So we're going to talk about that. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them down. I'll answer anything that you guys have. All right? So, and I'm going to show you some scenarios. All right? Okay. And by the way, anybody that wants to try and do a subject to finance deal, okay? Anybody who wants to try it, give me a call. I have all the paperwork that you need for it. Well, before we get into it, let me do this. Let me tell you about some of the bare bone things that you should do when you do this loan. Bare bones, some of the stuff that you should do. I wrote it down just so I could tell you, right? So, and if anybody wants this, they can have it. This is bare bones, okay? Bare bones. This is the minimum that I would do. The bare bones minimum. You should do more. This is the minimum. Number one, pull the title. Right? Well, you're going to need that for two reasons. Number one, you got to find out who actually owns the home. And everybody who owns the home needs to be on the agreement of sale. So that's number one. Pull title no matter what. You should get title insurance. Right? I highly recommend you get title insurance, but it's up to you. My pen's starting to run out, so let me do this, okay? Oh, it's kind of funny. By the way, right here. Here's the list of the top 10 banks that I'm calling. Right here. To see if they're going to allow subject to any one of their borrowers, okay? So pull title. That's the bare bones minimum, right? You want to find out what liens are against the property, who owns the property, because whoever owns it, whoever's on the deed needs to be on the agreement of sale. Okay, number two, bare bones, home inspection. Listen, if somebody is going to give their house to you, here you go. You better find out what's wrong with that house, if any, right? Because you're the one who's going to own it, and you better know what you're getting into. Which then brings me to number three. You should find the fair market value and the fair market rents in that neighborhood. You should know the market anyway. If you're going to be a real estate investor, you should know the market you're investing in. Now, if you don't, you need to find out the real fair market value and the fair market rent on this property. Why? Well, okay, maybe you're getting in over your head. Maybe it's worth less than what the house is worth. I mean, maybe the house is worth, right, less than what they owe on it, okay? So now it's a negative equity position. But you still want to get it because you found out the fair market rents, you're going to make positive cash flow, a nice big positive cash flow, which again brings me to home inspection. As long as the house is in decent shape and you don't have to do it. I know the gurus are going to say, do a lease purchase option and have them take care of everything. Again, I'm going to get into that debate in a minute. So we'll get there. Don't worry. Okay, if you want to be a real estate investor, do the right things, okay? I'm telling you. You're going to want to last in this business like I lasted, do this stuff, all right? The bare bones minimum. Okay. Make sure you review the seller's mortgage statement, right? The mortgage, the taxes, and the homeowner's insurance. Why? Because you want to make sure that he's not delinquent 3 years, right? Next thing you know, you got a tax sale you got to deal with. Okay? Or how long is he delinquent on his mortgage? How long is he delinquent on his mortgage? Okay? You want to know everything about the deal, so review it. Find out about. This is bare bones minimum stuff that you need to do right here. That's the bare bones minimum. Okay? Seriously, that's the bare bones minimum. Now, when you get into the actual transaction, some of the other things you're going to have to do, right, is you're going to have to change the homeowner's insurance, change the seller's homeowner's policy from a owner's to a renter's. Then add yourself, or if you're doing it in an LLC or a trust, whatever, just put yourself as the additional insuree on the clause. Trust me, you'll learn what that means, okay? Just call me and we teach this stuff, okay? You're gonna add yourself to the additional insuree to the clause, but you need to change it just in case something happens. It's not a homeowner's policy, it's gotta go to a renter's policy, okay? You needed that. The other thing you need to make sure, everyone on the deed is on the agreement of sale, okay? Make sure that's done, okay? Got to make sure of that. Okay, next one. Get an authorization to release. This will let you talk to the bank, okay? We used to get these things signed all the time in the mortgage business, right? Got plenty of them. Authorization to release information. Get it from everyone who's on the mortgage, whoever is on the mortgage, okay? They're obviously going to be on the deed. But not all of the people who are on the deed are on the loan, okay? Because trust me, I bought my house in Malvern. We lived there 20 years. I bought it in my own name. Then I added my wife. So my wife owned half the house but was not on the loan. So make sure who's ever on the loan also get an authorization to release so that they can talk, okay? You can talk to the bank. I personally would also get a power of attorney, but limit it to the transaction. Okay? Power of attorney, limited to the transaction. What means, again, it gives you access to talk to the bank, okay, on the seller's behalf. Hey, now, most people are going to try and get around that due on sale clause. So what do they do? What's one of the ways they like to get around it? Okay, and again, we got better ways than doing this stuff, okay? But one of the people where they like to do it is they like to call themselves the property manager. Now, if you're going to do this, make sure you got a property manager agreement with all, again, who are on the deed. So then you can call the bank and say, hey, I'm the property manager, 123 Main Street, okay? The other way you can do it is you can create a trust, right? This is probably a better way to do it. If I were to do it, I would do it this way. You create a trust, okay? Say, hey, I'm the trustee of 123 Main Street, all right? This is where we need the payments to be sent, yada, 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 all right? So that's the better way. That's another way. All the gurus got their own specific way. Trust me, I have a whole different way of doing this, which is way better. That doesn't put a seller in this kind of predicament, okay? But again, you want to do this as well, all right? Now, we'll get into trust and LLCs. Which is better? Me, personally, I would do a trust over an LLC because you technically don't own it. Good attorney can break an LLC in 5 minutes. So, listen, I was a decent golfer. So I got invited to a lot of golf tournaments from accountants who were people that I solicited. And I listened to trusts. I went to all sorts of seminars where I had to sit through trust and all this stuff, but I got to play nice golf courses. But I learned a lot through these guys, through all this stuff, all right? So I can tell you about these things. Me, personally, I would do it in a trust. LLC, again, they could break that in 5 minutes. A good one, good attorney, okay? It's not going to stop them, believe me, okay? So this is just some of the stuff that you're going to need to do if you're going to do transactions like this, all right? Again, pretty much bare bones stuff that you need to do, all right? And listen, we have access to all this stuff as well, all right? Now, also, we talked about the quitclaim deed, which is, there's no insurance, there's no anything. And then I talked about actually getting title insurance. That will give you a warranty deed, okay? Which is better for you because if something pops up, right? Something pops up, right? And the title insurance didn't insure it, they're the ones that are liable for it, not you, okay? Because if you just go and just do a quick title search, you're probably going to miss half the shit that's on there. And then what's going to happen? You're going to get screwed, okay? The same with a home inspection. Do a home, these is just some of the minimum stuff you need to do, all right? Okay. Also, a lot of the gurus are going to tell you to get a CYA signed, which is cover your backside, which, again, if you do it the right way and you explain it, and I would actually call the bank and get permission from the bank, then you don't have to get a CYA. But a lot of them do it. Trust me when I tell you this letter is going to be meaningless if you go to court. The judge is going to throw that right out. They're going to say you lied, you never explained it. Trust me, the judge is going to tell you, never explained it. The seller's attorney is going to say, they never explained it. They just hid it in the paperwork. So, right? So make sure you get the mortgage statements, make sure you get the tax statements, the homeowner's policy, all that stuff. That's the bare bones minimum stuff that you need to do the deal. Okay, let's talk about the deals themselves, all right? I'm going to show you some deals and how to do them and how to put it all together, yada, 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 all right? So give me a second while I clean the board again, right? Got to always clean the damn board, right? And then I will show you how to put these deals together, all right? And again, trust me, one of the things that I was very good at when I owned the mortgage company was structuring deals. That was my forte, okay? I was excellent at structuring deals. Now, with subject to, there's not many ways you can structure a deal, okay? Because, again, the only thing that's in a deal for a seller is what? Their equity, okay? That's the only thing that's in the deal is the equity. And most of them are going to want it, right? Now, let's get in and talk about these deals themselves, all right? Let me just clean this damn board. Sometimes it's so hard to clean. Sometimes it's easy to clean. Sometimes it's hard. All right, so let's talk about the deals. And then we'll talk about where to find these deals, okay? Where do you find these ultra-motivated sellers that'll just sign the deed and give you the keys? Oh, by the way, I love this. Oh my God, I love this. You know, there's a guy on YouTube, right? There's a guy on YouTube. He's the biggest guy out there promoting this subject to stuff, right? And he's always out there, I bought this deal with no money out of pocket. Not one, and I did it subject to. Not one penny. Okay. It's a total lie. Okay? And if you listen to this guy, what I'm trying to tell you to do is you should run as far away from this guy as possible. Because this does cost money. Now, it might not be no money down, but again, when he says no money out of his pocket, here's what he's telling you. He has a partner, or he has a lender, right, where he borrowed the money. Why? Again, just to do these deals, let me tell you, you have title insurance, or you should, if you're going to do it the right way, title insurance, that costs money. Home inspection, that costs money. Closing cost. What closing cost, Vinny? That costs money. Okay. How about recording the deed? How about preparing the deed? How about transfer tax? How are you going to transfer the deed from one person to the other without paying transfer tax and still have no money out of your pocket? How's that happen? How does that happen? It doesn't. So somebody's lying. Who's lying? Is it me? Am I lying? Or is he lying? They tells you there's no money out of my pocket, right? Well, maybe there's no money out of his pocket. Maybe the money came out of his partner's pocket or a lender's pocket or somebody that he borrowed money from. I don't know. Had to come from somewhere because you're not going to transfer. Oh, you could do a dollar D transfer. Oh, really? Then what they do is they base it on the assessed value. I mean, come on, people. Don't listen to the malarkey that's out there. It's bunk. It's bull. It's baloney. Okay? This costs money. This costs money to do subject to. Okay? It's not no money. Could be no money down, and let's talk about that. Okay? But remember, this costs money. I'm going to tell you this. If you don't get title insurance, you're asking for trouble. If you don't do a home inspection, now look, if you're a contractor or somebody who owns a lot of real estate, you don't have to do a home inspection. Listen, me and my wife, I can tell you, I've owned hundreds of properties. I don't have to do a home inspection. I can visually look at things myself. I can look at the seller's disclosure, okay? I can figure out whether things are good or bad. I can look at a roof. I can look at a hot water heater. I can look at the condensing units, right? I can look at the windows. I can look at things, okay? Now, it doesn't mean I know for sure if their stucco's bad or something like that, but I can turn things off and on. I can tell if things work or they don't work. But for the newbies, if you don't get a home inspection, you're asking for trouble. And don't go, I'm going to do a lease purchase and I'm going to have my tenants pay for it. You have no clue what you're talking about, okay? Because I'm going to get into the lease purchase stuff in a little bit, trust me, all right? So this costs money. All right, now let's get into the actual deal itself, all right? Let's get into the deal itself and show you how it's structured. So don't be paying thousands of dollars for the stuff out there. Now, just a little thing about me and the Golden Triangle Academy. The Golden Triangle Academy is a school that was created so that people can learn real estate investing, okay? I realized that there was nobody out there teaching real estate investing. You had the gurus out there ripping people off to teach them subject to, lease purchase options, wholesaling, right, novations. All that stuff is bunk. Creative financing doesn't work. It does in certain circumstances, not all the time. What we do is we teach you soup to nuts real estate investing, everything. Fannie Mae stuff to Freddie Mac stuff, appraisals, title, and everything in between. This is what you learn. It's $59 a month, okay? We have class every Monday night. We live stream it like I'm doing now, okay? All the other things like subject to, like this here, we're going to have step-by-step instructions online. You can go to it as many times as you want and watch all the videos, okay? You're going to see how we structure deals, how we do deals, right? We're going to do, we have open mic night where I do this and I'll answer any questions that anybody has. Okay, I'll help you structure your deals. Okay, structure night. Okay, we structure deals. All right. I do boot camps where you're invited to come to the boot camps for free. Right, all sorts of different things. Okay, at the Golden Triangle Academy. But more importantly, you have access to me. Okay, somebody who's actually been there and done that and actually has been involved in real estate his whole entire life for almost 40 years. Okay. So since my 20s, I've been doing this stuff. And I made it affordable so that everybody can come. $59 a month, that's it. Well, what about private and handholding? Yes, I have that. Of course I do. Yes, that's more money. I'm not going to say it's not. But that's totally a different animal. So, but if you want to learn real estate investing from a guy who's been there and done that, here's how you get a hold of me. It's pretty simple, okay? You just text the word Golden to the number 21,000. That's my digital business card. You're even going to get my cell phone number, which is right here, playing Pandora 70s music, right? I only have one cell phone. I don't have two. I don't have three. I have one. So if you call, I will answer. But I'm not going to answer before noontime. I work late at night, like this impromptu. I'll be up all night. So call me anytime in the afternoon, and I'll talk to you. Okay? Now, let's talk about subject to financing deals. Okay? How they work, yada, yada, yada. All right? So let's go back to the first deal that we talked about. All right? Simple, easy deal. Okay? Here's the seller. He's got a house. Fair market value, $100,000. Owes $80,000. PITI, $1,000. Okay? So now, again, the only thing that's in this deal, got ink all over the place. The only thing that's in this deal, again, is what? The equity of $20,000. That's the only thing that's in this deal, okay, that you need to get from the seller. Now, we're going to assume this is not an assumable loan because there's not a lot of those left. So what do? Well, we have to try and negotiate to get this subject to, right? So we're trying to get this subject to the finance, right? Oh, by the way, what does actually subject to the finance means? Okay, this is what it means. Let me just show you. So when you originally bought your house, right? When you originally bought the house, this is you, right? The seller. I'll just show you. And this is the investor. And the investor wants to buy this house, and he does it subject to. What it means is the deed transferred. Now he owns it, right? Owner. So you bought it subject to the financing that's in place. So the financing that's in place is $80,000, right? At $1,000 a month. That's already in place. So I bought this house subject to the finance that's there. That's what subject to means. I bought this house subject to the financing that was already in place. That's subject to financing. Sorry, I didn't explain that up front. I should have done that. My apologies. So that's what subject to the finance means. You're buying the house subject to, that's it. Now, let's talk about this simple deal. Okay, like I said, they only have equity in it. So you have to negotiate somehow this $20,000. That's your only job, is to negotiate that 20 grand. So the first thing you're going to do is like what everybody does. Well, you know, you tried to sell it and you couldn't get $100,000. If you had to pay a realtor's fee and all the other fees, you're going to have to come to the table with money. So why don't I do this? Why don't I just take subject to finance the $80,000? I'll pay all the closing costs, and you can walk away scot-free, good to go, and not owe any money. Because, you know, you hired a realtor, that's going to be 5%, right? You got to pay closing costs. Maybe there's some work that needs to be done. There's 10 grand, $15,000 worth of work. I'm going to buy it as is, subject to, right? So all you're doing is you're learning how to negotiate this right here, because that's all they have in the deal. So if that's all they have, learn how to negotiate it. So there's only a couple ways you can negotiate to get this money. How? So how do you pay the equity? Okay, you have to pay the equity, right? That's how you're going to get the deal done. Then you take subject to what is left. Okay, one, like I said, you give them cash. You borrow it. Remember, there's no banks involved. Nobody cares where the money comes from. You just got to get it. Where do you borrow from? The typical friends, family, 401k, IRA, credit cards, loans, right? Wherever you can think of. You get the money, and then you take that subject to, okay? Or, lastly, the last place you can get it from is from the seller. Now, what does that mean? Okay, this is where you say, listen, Mr. Seller, here's what I'll do for you. I'm going to take this subject to, and you claim you got $20,000. Now, look, it needs work, this, and the other thing, and we can work it out, but I'll do this. How about I'll do a note, right? We call this a seller second or a seller take back, right? Because they're going to take back a note instead of getting paid. Okay, so this is creative financing now. So the seller will give you a second. Seller will take back a second. Seller will hold the paper. Another terminology, right? Hold the paper. What's the paper? The paper is the note, the IOU, the money. That's what that is, right? That's what paper means. Paper means the money, the note, the IOU, right? So the seller will hold the paper. That's what we're saying there, right? Let me get a thing. So you can have the seller hold back the paper. So you can do the deal that way. So these are the three ways. These are the three ways that you can pay off the equity in there. Well, I forgot number 4. You can negotiate it off. Right? Mr. Seller, you owe, there's $10,000 worth of work in here. Right? There's no realtor involved. That and the 100 grand is if you got full asking price, which you didn't. You had it on the market 6 months. You can't sell it. So you might get offered $85,000. Then you got closing costs. You got to fix the house. They're going to do a home inspection. I'm going to buy it as is. Now that's part of negotiations, and that's not what this class is about tonight. This is just about to show you how these deals are done. Okay? So now that's how you can somehow pay off the second, the equity in the loan, right? Because remember, that's all the seller has in the deal is their equity. That's it, and they want it, okay? Now, unlike the gurus where they're going to tell you, no. Let me show you some of the guru stuff that they said. And I wrote it down because I couldn't believe some of the stuff that they were saying. Honest to God, I really couldn't believe what they were saying. I was shocked listening to some of these deals. And I'm going to write them down on a board, and I'm going to show them to you. And I'm going to ask you if you actually think it's true or not true, all right? And use your common sense, too, by the way, right? Don't believe, you got to understand, everybody's a millionaire on YouTube, okay? I haven't seen one broke person on YouTube at all. The only broke person I saw on YouTube is me, right? Vinny, you said you had all that real estate. I did. I lost it all in '08. You're looking at ground zero of the mortgage crash of '08. And I still haven't recovered, right? I lost so much because I didn't listen to my own advice. So, but trust me, all those people on YouTube that claim they're multimillionaires, no, they're not. They're just a bunch of dum-dums that went to some guru to try and do subject to, couldn't figure it out, went out there, realized nobody sells their house subject to, and guess what? Now they're the new guru. All they are is good marketers. Remember that. There's good real estate people, me, and then there's good marketers, not me, okay? I don't know anything about marketing. Nothing, right? All right, now, I'm going to show you some deals that the gurus did. Now I'm going to show you a deal that I know is actually 100% true. It didn't get done, right? But this is how I got one of my students because they came to me after this deal fell apart, okay? How about I start with that? I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to start with a deal that a person that I know, a couple. Well, I'll tell you the deal. All right, so let's get into the deal. Let's get right into it. All right, let me get my pen. I like the blue one. Hope the blue one still works. Kind of running out of ink. Here's the deal. Okay. So the seller had this 5-unit. Five-unit. It was for sale. $500,000. He owed $300,000. Okay, that's what this is the deal. Now let me tell you what happened. So I was doing a seminar about a different program, not this. And this husband and wife were sitting in the front row, great couple, nice couple, dressed nicely in a suit and tie. And I talked quickly about subject to and how it kind of really doesn't work. And the guy said, hey, I try to do a subject to. And I said, yeah, how'd that work out for you? And he's like, not well, right? So anyway, I did my seminar, and afterwards, he became a student of mine. So while we were in class, there's 30 or 40 of us, I said, why don't you tell us the deal that happened? And this was the deal. And I said, look, don't say any more. Let me see if I can guess how the person told you to structure the deal. Now, here's what he told me, okay? He said that there was, they bought this, the buyers, the seller had another one of these 5 units. So he had 2 of these. They bought the other one. So they already had one 5-unit, okay? This is the sister property to the one they own. So they wanted to buy this. They didn't have a lot of money, right? Because now normally on a commercial property, it's a minimum of 20% down, okay? You might be able to do a non-QM at 15% down, but then you got, so let's just talk about doing it at 20. So 20% down on $500,000 is $100,000 plus closing cost, okay? They didn't have it. So what did they do? They went to go see a guru. Now, I'm not going to say the guru's name. I don't know if the guru's good or bad. I don't know, and I don't care. So the guru showed them how to do subject to and how to do this deal. And they told the class, not just me, the class, that the husband practiced it, how they were going to do this deal for 2 weeks, right? They set up an appointment. They learned how to do this. They practiced this whole thing for 2 weeks. And they were like, oh my, they were convinced they're getting this house. Now, let me tell you what happens. When you don't know anything, when you don't know nothing, you hear this, it's the greatest thing in the world. Why? Because they teach it to you from the eyes of the buyer, right? Look how you can do this. Look, it's not how this works. The seller gets to say. Put yourself in the seller's shoes. So I can teach you anything, put yourself in the seller's shoes. So let's go over this. So I said, okay, here's what you tried to do. Tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. You tried to do this subject to the financing. Then the $200,000 that was left over, you probably tried to do a 5-year balloon at 10% interest-only payments. He says, well, you're pretty damn close. But what we offered 8% fully amortized at a 5-year balloon. Now, what is the difference? Okay, on an interest-only payment, you're only making interest payments. None of that $200,000 would go down. So if I was doing it, now I'd structure it differently. So if you did a 5-year balloon with 10% interest only, in 5 years, you would still owe $200,000 because all you did was pay interest. Now, why would you do that? Because the payments are way lower. It's way lower than what we call a fully amortized payment, okay? So let me show you the difference between the two. I've just happened to have a financial calculator here, so let me show you the difference. So let's look at this. So $200,000, 30 years at 8%. Oop, did that wrong. This was over 8% with 20-year AM, right? Fully amortized 20 years with a 5-year balloon, okay? So let me just show you what that means. So you're going to do 8%, 240 months. That's 20 years, $200,000. That payment would be $1,672. Okay? And they would pay it, and then after, I don't remember, it was 5 or 10-year balloon. After that, they would still owe money. Now, if I was going to do an interest-only payment, the way I would do it would be this way. So I would take $200,000 times 10% and just divide that by 12, right? Wait a minute, I'm sorry. 200,000 times 10%, divide that by 12, right? Yeah, 1666. 1666. So it's a little bit lower than doing it that way. Let me see what happened. I forget what it was, but anyway, the numbers were a lot different when we did it, right? Maybe it was 10%. I forget. All right. So anyway, let me show you what happened was they were going to take subject to the $300,000. And then they offered a seller second. Remember I showed you the 4 things? So what they tried was a seller second, right? Let me just erase this so I can show you. So the $200,000, what they tried was a seller second, okay? Remember we talked about the 4 things. Number 1 was you can pay cash. Well, they don't have the cash to pay it. Number 2, you can go borrow it from somebody. They didn't have any, they were tapped out. They couldn't borrow it anymore, right? Number 3, you can negotiate it. Well, that's too much money to negotiate off. And number 4, the seller can take a second. That's what they offered. So now that looks great from the buyer side, right? Hey, look, we got you. You're going to get monthly cash flow every month. You don't have to do nothing. And 5 years, 10 years, we're going to pay you off same amount, yada, 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 right? So, that's what it was. It was 8%. It was interest only, not a fully amortized loan. And they were going to pay 8%, right? That's what it was, something like that. I forget what the hell it was, to be honest with you. I have it written down. So anyway, so they thought that they were going to get by this with no money out of their pocket, except for the closing cost, right? Which wasn't going to be a whole lot of money. Title insurance and transfer tax, you know, compared to putting 100 plus closing costs. So the seller said, no, thank you. We're not doing that. Now let's look at it from the seller's point of view. The seller wants to walk away with $200,000. He gives away his deed to somebody. Now he knows that. So he gives the deed to somebody that he knows. He gets no money in his pocket. The loan is staying in his name. The deed is transferred, and he's going to get some monthly payments. And if they stop paying, he's going to have to foreclose. Because we live in a judicial state, it could take him 2 years, right? So how does that benefit the seller whatsoever? It doesn't. So they said no. So then I showed my student another method, and he said, you know what? Now that I know what I know, I laughed at myself too. Because I told him he got laughed at. And he's like, no, he didn't really laugh. Then he called me a couple of weeks later after he learned a different method. He's like, yeah, no doubt he laughed at me. He's like, I can't believe I even presented it. Now that I got educated, I see what's going on. I didn't know any of this stuff. I just thought that's what people do. Yeah, of course, right? Put yourself in the seller's shoes. Would you do that? Would you give the deed to your property and not get $200,000 and say, yeah, pay me off whenever? Right? No. Neither would anybody else. Okay, let's talk about another deal. All right? Let's talk about another deal. All right? So this is one. Let me see what I got here. This is another one from the Gurus. Let me see if I can find that one. Okay. This one came from the grandfather of the Gurus, right? I don't think I should say his name. I'm not going to say his name. But this guy's in Florida. He's an older guy, and everyone loves this guy. Now, look, I believe the guy kind of knows what he's talking about, right? I think he kind of knows what he's talking about. But when he says stuff like this, I seriously have doubts. So let me show you. This is a Guru deal. Now, I watched this on a live stream. I watched this, and I'm like, wait a minute. I rewound it over and over to say, wait, how's that true? So let me write it down, because I wrote it down. All right, now. So, fair market value $250. He's asking $182. PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, $1,582 a month. Closing cost, he said cost $3,000. I don't know how. Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote the wrong thing down. My apologies. Repairs equal $3,000. Closing cost was $2,500. Okay? So let me give you the scenario that Mr. Guru talked about. Mr. Guru said this. The value of the house sitting there was $250,000. He was only asking $182 for the property. His monthly payment was $1,582. It only needed $3,000 in repairs, and his closing costs only cost $2,000, $2,500. Now, let me ask you a question. Put yourself in this seller's shoes. Got a house that's worth $250,000. It only needs $3,000 in repairs, which is like painting a bathroom, fixing a bathroom up, a powder room, not even a full bath. That's fixing a powder room. That's not even enough to buy rugs, right? So a powder room was bad. Why is anybody asking $182 when it's worth $250, right? Why? Remember I told you I couldn't count? I can't count, right? Now, I know that's 20 and 50 is 70, so it's $68,000 difference. Why is a seller asking $68,000 less than what it's worth in this scenario? Well, Vinny, maybe it's a seller, maybe it's a buyer's market. Maybe it's okay, let's go on that premise. Maybe it's a buyer's market, right? Maybe it was a different time. Okay, I'm buying that. Let's go. Let's keep going. Okay, now. Sold. $269. $30,000 down. $2,000 a month, PITI. 2-year balloon on a lease purchase option. This non-refundable. Okay? So this is the scenario that I watched the big guru talk about. So again, fair market value is $250. He's only asking $182. Why? His PITI is $1,582 a month. Repairs are only $3,000, and credit and the closing cost was $2,500. Now I don't know how you only pay $2,500 in closing costs. How did the deed transfer? Who prepared the deed? Right? Did you do a home inspection? How about title insurance? How is it only $2,500? Okay. Now, by the way, let me tell you how many days later it's sold. Okay? How many days did he say? 18 days later, said it sold. Look at the fair market value, $250. He says he sold it for $269. Now, I don't get it. This normal seller, the guy who owned it, is asking $182. But 2 weeks later, this guy got $270 for it. Right? That is $19,000 over value. And they got $30,000 down on a non-refundable 2-year lease purchase option. Now, let me ask you a question. If you were going to buy a property for $200,000 and you were going to put 5% down, how much is that? It's 10 grand, right? Why is this guy putting 30 down? Why didn't he just buy it outright? Why didn't he buy it outright? Oh, he's got bad credit. Oh, he does he? Okay. He's got bad credit. Okay, I just want to teach you something. I owned a lot of real estate. I was a buyer and a holder. I rented properties out. You know who does this? The people with shit credit. You know what happens when you rent or give a lease purchase to somebody who's got bad credit? They don't pay. Okay, now, but Vinny, you got 30 grand up front. Yeah, okay, sure you did. Sure I did. Okay. And let me tell you something. What do you think is going to happen when this 2 years comes around and he doesn't go to settlement? Because no lease purchases are ever written right and they never go to closing. What do you think is going to happen? And he's just going to say, oh, I'm keeping your money, get out. Really? Really? You don't think that person's going to squat in that house forever? Yeah, get me out. Hey, get me. I paid you 30 grand and you think you're going to kick me out after 2 years? Yeah, sure you are. Watch how I sit here for the next 5 years. Get me out. This is a disaster waiting to happen. This isn't even true. First off, who's the seller that's leaving $68,000 on the table because of a $3,000 repair bill? Who? What seller is doing that? Where's the seller? Are you doing that? But why is this one done? Oh, because Mr. Guru said it's true. Okay, go try and find this. Good luck. Where the house is $68,000 under value with no repairs needed. Show me where that is. Show me where that is. Okay? Then, 2 weeks later, you get somebody to pay $20,000 over the value of the house. Right? And the only one who's doing that is somebody with shit credit. Because anybody who's got good credit with money, they can go buy whatever house they want. They don't have to pay $20,000. They could have bought this house and they could have got a bargain. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the shit that drives me nuts. How's this true? Where is this true? Where? Where is this true? Where is this true? Okay? This is the stuff that you need to learn. Because if I didn't show you point by point, you'd be like, this is unbelievable. Look how great this is. He got it for 70 grand. He made 100 grand on this deal in 2 weeks. Okay, and I got a bridge to sell you too. I mean, oh my God. And this guy charges thousands of dollars for this bull malarkey. This is malarkey. Show me where this is true. Show me where these buyers or these sellers are. And do you want to, listen to me. If you put somebody in there, and I'm going to tell you this too. If you do a lease purchase option and take a deposit like that, the judge is going to treat it just like a foreclosure. If you don't believe me, just look it up. You don't have to believe me. Look it up. Look, lease purchase option with a $30,000 deposit. How are they going to handle this? Because you know the guy's not getting out. They're not going to get out of that house. They gave him $30,000. They're not going to pay. Trust me, I had people with bad credit. They stopped paying after 6 months. If you get 6 months out of them, you did good. But where's this seller? Come on, stop it. Oh, my God. But if I didn't show you this, you'd be like, oh, my God, where do I sign up? Let me pay this guy so much money. If I can make 100 grand, it's going to change my life. And what happens? You can't find a deal like this, and then you give up on real estate investing because these guys are just ripping you off because they know you don't know. They know you don't know. They know you don't know. That's the point. Oh, God. All right, let me show you another one. All right? Let me show you another one. Let me show you another one. Oh, man. This just drives me up a wall, the way that people just rip people off left and right. Right? They know you don't know. They know you don't know this. They know you don't know. Right? They know you don't know this, so what do? They just lie. They make numbers up. I mean, are you going to tell me that's actually true? Right? Where are you finding a house? $70,000 under value, right? $70,000 under value with no repairs needed. If the guy said, look, there was $50,000 worth of work needed, I would then say, okay, I believe that. Right? I believe that. Okay. I had to watch that over and over, and I'm like, I can't believe this. I don't believe this. How in the world is he saying this? This is such a lie. Oh, my God. This is why people fail at real estate, because they believe this. They believe that this is out there. Go try and find it. It's not out there. If you found a deal like this, call me up immediately. My cell phone number is there. Call me immediately. I will walk you through. I don't want anything. I would bend over backwards to help you get that deal done, just to say you did it, and I'm proud of you. Oh, because I know it's not true, right? You're going to be out there forever. All right. Okay, let's do another one. All right. All right, let me find another one for you. Okay. Let me do this one. This is another one. Here's another guru one, right? Here's another guru one. Oh my God. Oh my God. Here we go. $1 million fair market value. Okay. Owed $450 on the first mortgage. Then he had a second, $191 on the second. Okay? Now, this is the deal. The second was delinquent. Okay, heading to foreclosure. Okay, now I'm going to explain a few things to you. All right, just so you understand, because if I don't explain it to you, you won't understand kind of what's going on. Okay, if you're behind on your mortgage, you have options. One, you could do a repayment plan. Right? This is where, let's just say he's way behind. This is where they would take the payments Divide it by 60 and add it back onto your loan. It's a repayment plan, right? They would definitely help you out with that. Number 2, do a modification, right? They would modify the loan for you, okay? Now, obviously, if somebody owns $1 million house and only owes $450 on the first and $191 on the second, they have a lot of equity in there. And what's the equity? Let's just say it was 200, 450, 6, so that's what, 650? See, I told you I can't count, right? Usually I got my student Steve. Steve, what's that number? So 450, right, plus 191, right, is 641 minus $1 million, right? So there's $359,000 in equity, right? That's a lot of money in equity, okay? So now, because he's behind on his loan, he can get a repayment plan. He could do a modification, right? What else can he do? He can just pay it off. He can go get a new second, right? He can take out a hard money loan. He can get a private investor, right? He can borrow money from his assets, right? He's at such a low loan to value. Loan to value meaning if he paid this off and added it to this combined loan to value, right? He's at, what was that number? He's at 455. What was that total number again? Damn it, I should know that. His total is he's at 450 plus 190. 450 plus, what's going on here? 450 plus, what is going on here? 450 plus 191, right? So that's 641. So he's at a 64 combined loan to value. Combined loan to value. Combined loan to value means this. Means this and this combined equals a CLTV. This equals LTV, 45 LTV. 450 divided by $1 million equals 45, right? Then 450, 191, add them together, that gives you a combined LTV, combined, okay? Combined loan to value. You had a 64 combined LTV. Trust me, somebody would lend him money on this, okay? Or the other thing he could do, right? He could file a bankruptcy and stop that foreclosure as well. So he's got options to do this. But here's what the guru said, right? And trust me, if you didn't know any better, you'd go pay this guy thousands of dollars because look what you could do too. So what did he say? Oh, because he was heading to foreclosure, here's what we did. We got a hard money lender, which by the way, they never go in the second lien position, hard money lenders. But because of this low loan to value, they may. Hard money lender paid off the 191, right? And we took this subject to the finance. And then we paid $9,000 in closing cost, right? So he paid 191, so he paid $200,000 he got it from an investor and took subject to. Now, the seller just handed him the keys. So he said, here's the keys. Now, if you're this seller, are you just giving away $350,000 in equity? They can also sell. That's number 5. They can sell. They can sell. They could do any of this stuff, any of this. So now what the guru's saying is this. We borrowed $200,000 from a private investor. We took subject to the 450. We turned around and sold it for $800,000, made a lot of money. Oh, really? Show me any seller that's going to walk away with $360,000 in equity and say, just take it, because their second is delinquent. Not their first, their second. Show me who's walking away from that deal. Show me any seller that's going to do that. But then he says, yeah, join my class. You know, it's 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand. Oh my God. Stop it. This is so bogus. It's unbelievable. All right. Let's talk about where you could find some deals, okay? Let's get into that. Let me show you where you could find some deals. Let's wipe off the board and let's talk about, well, Vinny, there has to be a way to find some deals. Okay, well, let's talk about that, all right? There are some places that you can find some deals, right? And I'm going to sit down and we'll change the board up a little bit and we'll do some talking, right? So there is some different places where you might have a chance to get some deals, okay? I don't think this white ink is all that good to use on this board, right? And boy, I made a mess on this, didn't I? Holy cow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some ideas of where you could go, right? And possibly get some deals. But again, just so you understand, this is not going to be no money down, okay? This is not going to be no money down, okay? It's not going to be no money down. Again, it's not going to be no money down, right? Or no money out of pocket like the gurus all claim. No money out of my pocket. And when I mean no money, I mean no money. Well, how's that true? Who's paying for these other costs that are coming around, right? Who's paying for the closing cost? Who's paying for the home inspection? Who's paying for the title report, right? Who's paying for all this stuff? Nobody? Oh, the seller, the one who you're getting the house for free for, right? Here's my keys. Just take my keys, all right? I'll erase this board and won't get going again. Sorry. That white stuff was not that good, was it? Okay. I'm going to have to sit down for a minute and we'll use the other board. Right? And we'll talk about some other things. I'm going to give you some other stuff that you can ponder on, okay? And then we'll call it a night. And I appreciate everybody coming on a short notice for anybody that did come, right? And if I'm just talking to myself, that's okay too. I don't mind talking to myself. Right? I don't mind talking to myself. All right. Okay. Let's do this. Let's get this. Let's move our board up a little bit. Whoops. I don't know what I just did here, but sorry, just going to take me a second. Just give me 1 second and we're going to jump into it. Just cleaning off the board a little bit and we'll figure out what we did here. All right, now I'm going to give you some good information that you can, and then, by the way, anything that you guys need, I have it here. Oh, we talked about trusts and LLCs. We'll probably get into that in another. All right, let's do this here. Let me pull this up. All right. We'll use the big board as well. So let me pull it up that way. The other board, I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Is it switching over? I hope so. Switch. I'm trying to switch it. Trying to switch it over. It's giving me a hard time. Let me try and switch. I'm trying to switch it over. Hello? What happened? There we go. All right, I think I got it now. Okay. All right. All right, so now what we're going to do is all right. So we'll go over some other information. Okay, so where can you find deals? Where can you find deals that you could possibly do this? Okay, the place that you're going to find, I got no room on my damn desk here. Let me get all this crap out of the way. Let me get this stuff out of the way so I can put this stuff here. Just bear with me again. I'm sorry. The place where you're going to find some deals, let me get all this crap out of the way. Oh, there's my pen. This is what I was looking for. Mr. Keyboard, you get out of the way too. Okay, Mr. Pen Holder, you get over there. And now we got some room. Now we got some room. All right. So And now my thing's not working. What happened? Of course not. All right. Frustrating as all hell. All right, let's do this. My board's not working. I'm gonna have to restart, but let me change the board over now again, being that this is gonna, you know, guys obviously don't want to see that. So come on, switch over. All right. I apologize about that. Restart. Okay, so where do you go find some of these people? Okay, well, some of the people that you can go look for are going to be, now this is, I was going to write it down on the board, but obviously our board's not working right now, would be pre-foreclosures, meaning people that are in foreclosure. Remember when we talked about the default clause, the mortgage is the security of the bank's security? Okay, well, when somebody goes 3 months behind, okay, that automatically kicks in the clause to the banks where they're going to start the foreclosure process. And being we live in a judicial state, they have to go to the court to try and get their deed back, okay? So they're filing a claim against you, which is they're going to put a judgment against you. When they do that, that's called a public record, okay? So when a public record is out there, you can get a list of all the people that are going through this, okay? You could go, literally, you could go right on the county, you could go right on the county courthouse records, okay? Right on the county courthouse. And you can look at all the houses that are in foreclosure. And every one of those people is an opportunity to go get this deal done. Why? Because they're almost ready to lose their house anyway, right? They're in pre-foreclosure. Now, we talked about earlier, they have options. They can do a modification, they can do a repayment plan, they can file a bankruptcy, right? They've got all sorts of things that they can do, okay? And with that being said, what happens is that they're either going to keep their house or they know that they're going to lose it, right? And if they're going to lose it, you got a chance of getting it from them, right? But what is going to happen if they're going to lose their house? Okay, how's that going to work? Well, let's take a look at that. All right, now that I think I got my screen back, let me see here. All right, I did. Okay, I don't know what happened, but I got it back. So bear with me for a second. I'll post over and we'll go over it. And let me just show you. All right, so I'll show you this. My technology doesn't work that well here, right? I constantly got to. All right, I'm on, switch. See what I go through? I go through so much trouble. I can't get shit to work. Come on, switch. I'm hitting the damn button. It's not, oh, there it is. It did switch over. All right. What happened here? It's so frustrating being in my shoes. You have no idea. No idea. I don't even know what's on. Oh, it is. My screen is so screwed up. My switcher is so bad. All right. All right. All right. There we go. Finally, we're back in action. I apologize. All right. So, what we talk about are the pre-foreclosure ones, okay? They're ones you can go after, but let me show you what has to happen. Now, let's just say, same scenario, right? They have a house. Let me make this a little smaller. They got a house with a fair market value of $100,000, right? Remember, they owed $80 at $1,000 a month. Let's say they're 6 months behind, 6-month delinquent. That puts them in the pre-foreclosure. Right after 3 months, it puts them in the process, okay? So you can go to the courthouse, you can find these out. They're easy. You don't have to pay any money to find these. All right, so how would this work? Okay, so you would have to get them. What's going on? My pen died? What is going on? There we go. My pen died. Or something died, but I can't write now. I'm frozen. All right, let me switch to the big board and do it up there. My apologies. I tried to do it here, but as you can see, nothing works. Nothing ever works here. All right, pre-foreclosures. Okay. I don't know why it didn't work. Okay, so let's talk about it. So you got a seller, right? He's 6 months behind, which is $6,000. Let's put another $2,000 in late fees, attorney's fees, all the other fees that are involved in this foreclosure that got started, okay? So how would you do this, okay? This is what we call a pre-foreclosure. So you're going to pay $8,000 to get them current, okay? You're going to give them, let's say, I don't know, $4,000 to move out. All right, so you're in it for $12,000. Then you got some closing costs, right? We'll call it $3,000. It's going to be more than that, but I'm just giving up round numbers. $15,000 out of pocket. Okay? So again, let me show you what happened, right? So the borrower is 6 months delinquent. They're 6 months behind on their mortgage, okay? And they can't pay it for whatever reason. They can't pay the loan. So they miss their payments. You come along, you get them current. You give them some money to move out. You pay the closing cost. You're $15K out of pocket. There you go. Now you just take over subject to the loan that they have, right? So there is a place. My whole computer froze up. Just bear with me 1 second. So there's a place where you can go, right, and get something done like that. Where, holy cow, nothing's working. Sorry, I'll be right there. So there's where you can go and get some deals here. Go after the ones that are in what we call pre-foreclosure. The other people that you can go for are tax delinquents, right? People that are delinquent in their taxes, okay? They may or may not lose their house to a tax sale. You can try those. Divorces, right? Just remember, the normal typical seller is not going to go for a subject to. You have to find the real motivated people. Now, you can also find people that kind of like the flip houses, right? Where you can take the subject to house, take the house subject to, fix up the property, and then sell it, and then you don't have to worry about the due on sale clause. But just remember this, okay? Always have an exit strategy, okay? Have a way to get out of this quickly. So, and what I mean by that is try not to take on a property that if they call the note due, you can't sell or you can't get out of, right? Why? Because you do not want to get stuck with them foreclosing. That's not why you're in business, to lose deals, okay? So you got to make sure, and this is again me telling you about the fair market rents and the fair market values and all that stuff, right? When you take somebody's house, you want to make sure that A, it's worth more than what is owed on it, unless you plan on keeping it for a long time, like as a buy and hold, right? And if you're going to buy and hold it, that's why you need to know the fair market rents so that you can hold it and that you can make the payments, right? And that the house is not so beat up, right? That it's not so beat up that that nobody's going to rent it, okay? Now that gives me the other guru. I had a student that paid, I think, $15,000 for the class, right? And the guru was big on this subject too. Okay, he loved this subject too. Learned it from, I guess, I don't know where he learned it, nor do I care. I don't care where he learned it. But so we had a guru that learned subject to financing. Okay, and my student went to this guy first. Didn't know about me, right? So he went there and he spent $15,000 on this guru to learn subject 2. Okay? And he told me a story that he watched. I don't think he was live. I guess he had access to videos, okay, through the guru, right? He had access to videos. Now, this is the story that he was told where the subject 2 worked, and he got the deal. So let me tell it to you, okay? So the seller, he had a fair market value of $260,000. He owed $250,000. His PITI is $1,500. Fair market rent was $1,600. That's a situation. And he talked to the class, hey, how many people would do this deal? Now, let me tell you the rest of it. This house was junk, falling apart. He said the only thing that was good, I hope I'm getting the story right, the only thing that was good on this house was the windows. And he just financed those windows. So the windows were great, but the rest of the house was literally falling apart around them. So he says, how many people would do this deal? I guess he had a student up in the front, and nobody raised their hand. And I'm like, I wouldn't do that deal either, right? The house is falling apart. He owes what he's worth. Just remember this. Some of the best deals you'll ever do are the ones you don't do. So he says, well, that's why I'm the teacher and you're not, because this is a good deal. I'm not saying it's a grand slam, but it's a very good deal. I'm like, okay. I said, I don't want to say his name. I said, you got my attention now. Show me how this is a good deal. Because I like learning. If I can learn something. Listen, anybody tells you they know everything, that's when you got to go the other place. Because nobody knows everything, okay? So I'm like, all right, well, teach me. I definitely want to learn something. So he says, all right. So he bought this house subject to financing. Now, the guy who he bought it from, the seller, was 76 years old. Filed his second bankruptcy about 6 months ago. Right? So he owes more than what it's worth. The house is dilapidated. Can't rent it for what he wants. Right? So this guy comes along and bails him out. Now, I believe this deal happened. There's no doubt in my mind this deal happened. Without question, this deal happened. I believe that. I honestly believe that this deal happened. I do. I believe that this deal happened. Okay? Now, he says, let me show you why I'm the teacher and you guys aren't. If everything stayed the same, and I'm thinking, well, maybe he doesn't owe a lot of money left. But I'm like, nah, he owes $250. It's only worth $260. So it can't be that, right? It can't be he's only got 10 years left, right? Because the payment's $1,500 and it's $250. So that's going to be a while, right? So he says, if everything's the same, okay, in 25 years, because that's this at 25 years left on a 30-year loan. Okay? So he bought it for $250, subject to. Now, I believe that happened. So he said, if everything is the same, right? He goes, I'm going to do it as a lease purchase option. Okay? And in 25 years, if the rent stays the same and everything stays the same, I will pay $0 in taxes. Now, that is a great way of looking at things. And I agree with that. He bought it for $250. He sold it for $250. He owes $0 money on it, right? So he's going to pocket $250,000 and not pay any taxes. Why? Because that's what he paid for it, right? He made no profit. There's no profit. He paid for it. He sold it for what he paid for it, right? So he pocketed $250 and he pays no tax. But he had to wait 25 years. And here's my question. And I'm saying, okay, that's a great way of looking at it. And I give the guy an A for effort. But here's my question. Even if you're trying to do a lease purchase option, who's paying $1,500 for a junk house? Right? Somebody's got shit credit. Okay, then what's going to happen when they don't pay? The money's going to come out of your pocket. And then who's going to fix the house up? Who's paying for that? Right? So it's not, don't think it's always as good as it seems. Me personally, I wouldn't do this deal. Now, the guru did do it, and that's fine because he figured, all right, he can hopefully break even for 25 years and put the money in his pocket and not pay any taxes. All right, that's fine. Okay, congratulations. But I could go do 10 other deals, make 10 times the amount of money, right? And not worry about that. Because to me, that's just a headache waiting to happen. In my opinion, that's a headache waiting to happen. In my opinion, okay? Now, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe, right? Maybe nothing happened. Maybe he got everything done the way he wanted to get it done. Okay, if he did, that's fantastic. Okay, but me personally, I wouldn't have done that deal. All right, I wouldn't have done that deal. So let's take a look at some other stuff and then we'll wrap up. All right, that I wanted to tell you. Let me see here. Right? Yeah, and oh yeah, this is the note that I wrote on this deal here, right? One of the notes that I have. All right, and let me show you, right? So if right, if you had a deal, right, and it was subject to, whoops, okay, right, it was subject to financing, right, and you had that same deal, right, $1,500, and the fair market rent is $1,600, right? There's no money in there, right? And you did it subject to, what happens when you get a squatter, right? The house is dilapidated, and now you get a squatter. And I'm not talking about the guru who's got lots of money in his pocket, right? Because he's charging everybody, $15,000 to learn his course. Or at least that's what my student paid, right? I don't know if there's tiers or whatever, but I know my student paid $15,000. So what happens if you get a squatter and you can't get anything? And because we live in a judicial state, it takes 2 to 3 years. And you did it subject to, and now what's going to happen? Right? I mean, that's a big issue in my opinion, all right? So, all right. Remember, when you're trying to do subject to, it's all about the equity. Okay? So you can do a few things. Remember, cash, you can borrow. 3, you can negotiate it. Number 4, get the seller to do a seller second, or what we call take back. Right? So you could do all these things, right? Okay? So just remember that. All right. If you have a deal, let's say it's a kind of like a flip, okay? Same thing up here, right? But let's say there was more equity. Let's say the house is worth $260, right? Say it's worth $260, and let's say there's $60,000 in repairs. And let's say he owed what? Let's say $120, right? $120. But let's say he wanted $180, right? But can't sell it for whatever reason. How would you structure that deal? Once $180, he owes $120, right? But there's $60,000 in repairs. Well, you take subject to. Now, I just want to preface by saying this. I have a better way of doing all these type of deals, but we're strictly talking about subject to tonight. So I'm just showing you how to do it with subject to. So how would you say subject to, right, of the 120, subject to the 120, okay? The 60,000 right here, right? Either you have it, right, or you get a private investor, right, to lend you the 60, right? Now you're at 180. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. He wants 180. Well, 180 plus 60. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I did that wrong. So you got 180. 180 is what he wants. Plus 60, right? That's 240. No, I wouldn't do that deal. We got to do it a little bit differently, right? So there's the deal I wouldn't do. So see here, when you're running the numbers, right? If you had this, I would say, no, I wouldn't do this deal. Why? All right, if I got to pay him 180 and put 60,000 into it, right? 180, whoops, right? 180 plus 60, right there, I'm at 240. And the value's only 260, I'm walking from that deal. Now, if you can get it a lot less, how would you do it? All right, you take subject to 120. Let's say you get it like, say, 140 or 130. Okay, you can get it a lot cheaper. He wants 10 or 20 grand. Okay, so what you do is you take subject to finance the first, and we'll say 120. Okay, then you owe, right, the seller, let's say 20 for a total of 140. You borrow 60, right? Now you're at 200. But when this right here, you pay them when you sell it, okay? So you go do the 60, and then you sell the property for 260 or plus once you redo it. So there you can do what I call it delayed financing, right? Or delayed payoff, where you delay this payoff that you owe them. You fix the house up. Now there's another name for that, right? And that's, they call that equity sharing program, where you share the equity, right? They come in. There's actual companies that go in and fix the property up, right? They fix it up, and then when it gets done, they pay it. And that's called equity sharing, all right? But you could do it that way. Let's see. Got to get them current, take over their payments, right? All right. Lastly, would you use an LLC or a trust? I would always use a trust. Whoops. Me personally, I'm using a trust over an LLC. Why? Well, because a trust, A, it sounds more professional. That's number one, right? Number two, you don't own it, right? So if anything does blow back, you don't really own it. Where the LLC, a good attorney can crack this in 10 minutes, okay? And there's just a lot more benefits to a trust than there is over an LLC, all right? And again, you're really doing it for if it blows up, okay? That's why you're doing it, all right? Because I can tell you, I owned, I don't know, between me and my wife, maybe 200-300 properties, okay? And every property we owned in our own name. We didn't put them in a trust. We didn't put them in an LLC. Why? Because I had good accountants and I had good attorneys, and they said, look, your best protection, if anybody wants to know, your best protection is this. That was my best protection. Plus, it was easier to refinance them when I needed to refinance or do whatever I wanted to do. So I just made sure I had insurance. I made sure I was protected, okay? So, and you could do the same thing. You don't always have to have a trust or an LLC. Trust me, the financing is a lot harder if you put them in a trust or an LLC. But if you're going to do subject to, I would definitely use it in a trust, okay? You don't have to. You don't have to, right? Because all you're trying to do is protect yourself in case something blows back on you. All right, that's what you're doing. So now look, you're going to have to. By the way, all the paperwork that you need, all the agreement of sales, all the authorizations, all the trust documents, everything that you need. Like I said, I had accountants that were friends of mine that I used to golf with, that I would go to their seminars on trusts and everything else. So I have all that paperwork. I have it from when I owned the mortgage company, right? So anything that you need, I have for you regarding trust, LLCs, all that stuff. So I have it. And it was all done by, a lot of good CPAs, okay? They just wanted me to be on their golf team, right? I was a good golfer at the time. I was a 2 handicap. So I got invited to, some nice places so that it was always a scramble, right? Everybody hits a ball, we go to the best ball, everybody hits it on the green, we go putt it from there. So I always got invited. So I had to sit through a lot of these seminars, and at the time I didn't like it, but looking back on it now, it was great because I learned a lot about trusts, a lot about LLCs, right? I learned a lot of different accounting things, learned how to do tax returns and everything. So it turned out to be a good thing, a blessing in disguise, and I got to play golf for free. So anyway, I hope you learned a little something about subject to. Again, if you truly want to learn this stuff inside and out, the Golden Triangle is your place to do it. I teach all this stuff inside and out. Again, I was a lender. I was a mortgage broker, which meant that, we basically knew all the rules and regulations of lending. So I know this stuff like the back of my hand. And again, I have a better program than this. These are going to be difficult to do. Let's just be honest, right? They're not out there every day. You got to find ultra motivated people that are willing to give you their deed to their property, right? So they need to be very, very motivated, all right? Normal sellers, you're going to have a hard time giving. Any normal seller is going to give their deed to you. Trust me when I tell you that, all right? So if anybody has any questions, you can ask. I'll gladly answer anything. If not, I appreciate anybody who came by and wanted to listen about subject to financing. And if nobody came by, I had a nice chat with myself. So I'm okay with that. I work on my seminar. I work on my live stream. I work on my programs. I got to work out the bugs. This iPad needs to be on. It keeps shutting off. And that's why I had a hard time switching back and forth. So, and this damn thing, it shut off twice in the middle of me trying to do stuff. So I apologize for the technical difficulties. But I appreciate everybody coming, so thank you. And if anybody wants to, if there's something that anybody wants to learn, right? If there's something out there that you want to learn, right? Whatever it is, let me know. I'll gladly do a live stream on it, okay? And if you really want to learn, or if you want private help, if you want me to be your mentor, you can just text the Golden Triangle, give me a call. I'll gladly talk to you, right? If you text that thing, you're going to get my digital business card, which has my name, my number, my YouTube, my email, my Facebook, all that stuff. I forget what's on it, but you'll easily get in contact with me. Just remember, I don't answer the phone before lunchtime, all right? Because I work late into the night, and then I sleep till about 10 or 11. I get up, I make my kids breakfast, right? I like doing it. I enjoy making my kids breakfast, right? And then after that, I try to answer anybody that calls. So, again, thank you for coming by. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we didn't go into deep details, but at least I try to give you some knowledge of how it works. All right? So have a good one. See you and talk to you soon. Take care.